Greetings, fellow conquerors, and welcome to EU4. This is Darkfire Slide, and today I'm going to be talking about 12 different ways to improve your income without war or trade. You know, this stems from the question, Dear God, I'm the King of France and I can't even afford 30,000 troops. What do I do? Don't worry. I've got your solution. I've got your medicine. I've got you taken care of. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into 12 different ways that you can improve your income. Alright, first and foremost, perhaps not the most important, this is not a ranked list by any stretch of the imagination. This is just 12 different ways to make your economy better. So first and foremost, with if you have the Cossacks or Common Sense DLC, which you admittedly probably should by the release of the Prussia patch just because of the way institutions work, which is a topic for a different video. Improving your development, either your administrative or diplomatic development, can be a very effective way to just improve your income. For example, if you look at this province here of Rashid, we notice that it is a farmlands province, which slightly reduces the development cost, but more importantly, it doesn't cost more to do it, which means that it's very easy to improve this province and just make it better. And because we have a mosque built here, or a church if you're Western, you will improve your income, for 46 admin, you will improve your income from this province by 0.14 per month for the rest of the game. That's quite a lot of ducats over the course of time, and, you know, the more you improve it, the more it compounds. Like, for example, currently we're only making 0.74 from this province. However, if you look at its neighboring province, Iskandaria, or Alexandria, if we look here, we can see that the mosque here, we also have one, but because this province has 19 base tax, we're making 2.82 ducats per month from this province, which is just absolutely insane. So, you know, that's just one thing to consider. If you've got provinces with no autonomy, or, you know, I don't know why this has 0.3, I guess it's from my corruption, but anyway, if you look at these provinces, you know, you get this bonus, and it's just really, really, you know, it's not an amazing way to improve income just because it costs a lot of monarch points, but if you're unable to go to war, I know that especially in multiplayer, this can be a quite effective way to improve your income, as well as your manpower if you're so seeking to do so. And so that brings me to the second point of this list, which is buildings. So, obviously, you know, buildings like the mosque are going to improve your tax income by a set modifier, and as well, another very important building is the workshop, which increases local production efficiency. This is especially good when stacked with a trade company, which I will talk about later. But basically, you want to build mosques in provinces that have high administrative points, and if they don't already have them, if you have any provinces that are farmlands, grasslands, you know, anything that is not going to increase development costs, what you can do is build a mosque or a church, and then start improving the administrative power or the administrative development of the province, just to get that nice extra monthly tax income. Now, what is the third way that we can improve income? And the easiest one, well, maybe not the easiest, but another one that is often overlooked because of the sometimes negative effects of it is lowering autonomy. So if you don't know how autonomy works, basically this number here is a flat reduction to the effectiveness of the province. So ergo, we have 32% autonomy in this province. That means that we're not getting 32%, we're getting 32% less taxes, you know, production income, etc., from this province. So a very quick way, if you are in desperate need of more money and have a big army and can afford to, one really big way to integrate new areas is just to click this button here to lower autonomy. However, it is worth noting that if you do this, you will incur a +10 to local unrest. However, this isn't always as bad as it seems. Especially if the provinces are of your culture and your religion, and you have a good tolerance, or usually tolerance of the true faith, especially. What can actually happen is this number right here. If you mouse over the actual unrest, as we can see here in Banias, the unrest is negative 9.8, which means if we were to lower autonomy right now, we would be at +0.2, which is very unlikely to have rebels pop on its own. And even in provinces that have, say, for example, let's check out this province here. Maybe less of a good example. This province here is at negative 1.5. However, it is also at 23 development. So lowering autonomy would really give us a lot of benefits here. However, if we click the lower autonomy button, we will be at plus 8.5, unrest, which is really bad. However, if we stacked 20 troops on this province, and we actually have a theologian, which helps a lot with this current situation, but things like better legitimacy and a a theologian, of course, and things like Humanist Ideas can also really, lower the unrest, which can let you lower autonomy. As well, parking 20 troops, 20 is the most you can get out of this, will lower the unrest by a further 5. So we could get this down to like negative or plus 3.5, which isn't too likely of causing a rebellion, or if it does, it will be very, very slow at that current rate. Now, naturally, in 30 years, you're probably going to go to war at some point, but you have to ask yourself, is it worth lowering the autonomy early? And that question kind of comes from, how effective is, your government rank, and your other, bonuses to lowering autonomy. For example, at our current rate, we're getting minus 0.15 autonomy per month, just because we're at peace, which lowers autonomy by 0.1 every month. This is the standard rate for most people, for most countries at the start of the game. And what this is going to do is every 10 years you will lose 12% autonomy. So in about 30 years anyway, maybe even less than that in this province, this province is going to be at 0 autonomy anyway. At 0.15 every 10 years, we're going to get 18%, and every 0.05 that you get is going to be another 6% every 10 years. So consider that when you're thinking about lowering autonomy. In the early game, it can be a good thing. In the late game, it can be a good thing, just because in the late game, you probably have a big army. So that's just something else to consider when you're looking at how to improve province effectiveness. All right, next. This is something that I myself forget as a veteran EU4 player. If you go to your states and territories map mode, you can see here I have a lot of provinces that are not states. I have a lot of provinces that are territories, and territories are capped at 75% autonomy with no way to lower it. However, if I turn them into a state, first of all, I get this nice pop-up that tells me how much I'm going to make if I turn this into a state. Now, as we can see here with this province, or this state here, we're actually going to lose money. Now, from what I understand, this does accurately calculate how much you're going to make after the province's autonomy is lowered, because when you make a territory into a state, the autonomy is lowered, proportion to what it would have been if it hadn't been a territory, which can make it a good idea sometimes to just wait to turn provinces or to turn territories into states. But if you are hurting on income, sometimes what you can do is turn if you've got a new territory that has high autonomy but is of your culture and your religion, for example, you can turn that into a state, and then, park troops, lower autonomy, and suddenly you're making a lot of money from it. As well, if it's a province like a farmland or a grassland, it's, all those good provinces for development, you can also turn it into a state and then immediately, build a church and improve the actual province, just to get that, extra bit of income. That's just, another good way of improving income that you can do while you're not at war and not trading. Alright, next, another thing that changed in the Prussia patch, 1.18, is that we have a new way of manually accepting cultures. This is important because now, I believe it's 20% is what you need, right? Something like that. It's either something between 10 and 20% that you need to actually be able to accept a culture, and it's going to cost you diplomatic points. However, you should really, really consider, accepting cultures when you can, and here's why. So, if you look at this Nubian province here, because it is a non-accepted culture in our country, not only does it get additional unrest, it also loses 33% of its tax modifier, has less missionary strength, as well as lowering the manpower modifier. Now, it's important to note that the production income is not impacted by this, which is interesting to say the least. However, depending on what level of intolerance you have, unaccepted religions will also have a similar effect. But unlike culture, religion will actually affect your production. So that's something else to consider when you're looking at ways to improve your income. But yes, if say for example you're playing as Arabia, as I am, and you've just conquered some provinces here in Egypt, you'll almost immediately want to accept them because some of these provinces have a lot of inherent development level. And so by accepting these provinces, you are going to drastically improve your monthly income. Alright, number 6. We're on the 6th one. Next, we're going to try to improve our production income. And how we're going to do that is we're going to go to the, if you go to the economic map mode, look up trade goods. So there are a couple of trade goods that you should look out for when you're playing the game. Slaves are one. Silk, I believe, the cloth is what it is. Cloth is typically a very high value trade good. Spices, we're lucky to have some spices here in the Middle East. And all of these trade goods, what you should look out for them, and as well, once you hit about Admin Tech 16 or so, maybe a little bit before that, depending on what your total production efficiency is, basically whether or not you've taken economic ideas or not, you can get a lot of money by building, manufactories and then workshops to boost those manufactories. Now, at first, if you go to actually look at how much these, do, for example, we've got this plantation here. It costs us 465 ducats, and it's going to improve the this province here of Asir by 0.5. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot because it's going to, take 5 years to build, and then it seems like it'll take like, let's see, at 0.5 probably like 100 years to actually pay itself off, which seems really bad, right? However, if we built a workshop in this province, it's important to note that if we built a workshop in this province here, that income would go up to like 0.75 basically. If my math is right, since it is just a production efficiency modifier. Probably not exactly 0.75, probably a little bit lower than that, just since, all the percentages are additive and not multiplicative, but so getting 0.75 a month is really, really strong. And if you further improve the production income of this province, right now, for example, without any upgrades at all, this province of Asir, because it has coffee, which is valued at 4.5, you will get 0.1 ducats per month by improving the diplomatic, level of this province. However, building this will make it go up by even more. So if we zoom to a province that does have a workshop and has a manufactory here in Iskandaria, every point that we improve Diplo power, and this is going to give us 0.13 per amount that we improve, which is really, really substantial when you think about it, because that's going to be like, additional 6 ducats a year. So, and some people are still going to be against that, I think, but, consider how much money that is. So, it's like 0.13 per month. That's like an extra infantry, right? It's a little less than that. So, like, for every 2 development that you got, that would be like an extra infantry. But that's just the development level, right? Like, when you build this 0.5 building, that's an extra 2 infantry that you can support. It's less about the building paying itself off and more about what you can do with the improved income, because more income means that you can build more buildings that have more income, or you can build more troops to take land, which will improve your income. So think of it less in the long term, think of it more in the short term of what having this built is going to do for your economy. Alright, next. One thing you should also consider doing is changing your government. For example, in the start of the game, it's usually a pretty good idea to have a feudal monarchy, because, for the most part, having a feudal monarchy means that you're going to have a lot of, in the early game, you're going to have a lot of vassals, and so having the extra income from vassals is really important, just because it is going to, improve the actual amount of money that you make from those vassals, especially if you take influence ideas, which further improves the, money that you get from that. So, fairly, obvious there, but, for example, at Tech 12, Absolute Monarchy is unlocked. Sorry, no. I want to say Administrative Monarchy, which is the government that we have. At Tech 12, you unlock the Administrative Monarchy, and this is important because it improves production income, which can be really strong if you've been doing, what I've said here, where you build factories and things of that nature. It also improves national tax modifier by 5%, not as strong as it used to be, but still fairly useful, but more importantly, it also increases the rate at which monthly autonomy is reduced. And this is really strong because, as we've discussed, having more monthly autonomy change means that your provinces are going to make more money. And so this is a really good way to make more money that way. And the last 3 government types have an even higher bonus. They have a minus 0.1 per month. And this stacks with your government rank. So if we were to take absolute constitutional monarchy or enlightened despotism, we would get even more autonomy reduction, which means every new province that we take is going to, become integrated more quickly, make us more money more quickly, which is just good all around. So if you are hurting for money, consider changing immediately to an administrative monarchy, which will just flat out improve your income unless you have a lot of vassals. Or consider for long term, if you have a lot of areas with high autonomy, to one of the later government forms, which I believe is unlocked. Yeah, unlocked at Admin Tech 20, 22 for constitutional, and 29 for enlightened despotism. Alright, number 8. Lower army maintenance and delete forts. So, for example, here in Arabia, we have, like, how many forts is it? We can check here in our tab. We've got 8 forts, okay? Now, at the beginning of the game, it's important to note that the basic forts cost 1 ducat per month to upkeep, which is a lot of money. 1 ducat a month is absurdly expensive. Now, even if we mothball these, even if we mothball these provinces, unfortunately what's going to happen is that we're still paying half of what these forts are worth, which is 4 ducats a month still. That's a lot of money. For example, we're currently making a profit of basically 18 ducats a month. So, if we had 4 more basic forts, that would bring us down to 14. That's a pretty significant, percentage-wise, that is a lot of money going down the drain for something that isn't necessarily helping us. So if your economy is in the tank, one thing you should seriously consider doing is deleting forts. Now, a lot of skilled players that I know like to delete everything except their capital fort. And that's a little risky for me. I personally don't like playing that way. However, you may find that it is something you like simply because forts are so goddamn expensive. I cannot exaggerate this enough, especially because later forts cost even more money. That getting rid of them can be a very, very quick way of improving your economy. As well, lowering army maintenance. This is a basic, but I feel like I should mention it anyway. You can pay your troops half of what they are actually, what you're actually paying them now. And as we can see, if we lower our autonomy completely, we go from 18 ducats a month to 25.5. So, considering that army maintenance is generally speaking the highest, the most money that you pay for any one thing, maybe apart from fort maintenance, depending on if you have too many of them, lowering army maintenance, when it is good to do so, can really improve your economy very quickly. Which brings me to number 9, which is something that I find hard to swallow, but I thought I'd bring it up anyway. Deleting troops can be a very good way of improving your economy. If you're not planning on going to war anytime soon, and you're in a pretty stable position like I am here with Arabia, deleting troops can be a very effective way of improving your economy. Let's just take a simple, look at this. So, at the start of the game, a single cavalry regiment costs about 0.52 to 0.56 ducats per month, 2.5 times what an infantry is worth. That is 3.36 ducats per month, more or less, which doesn't seem like a lot, but in 10 years, that's 33 ducats, and in 100 years, that's 330 ducats. So, consider when your economy is in the tank, you have a lot of loans, taking out some of your infantry, or some of your cavalry and cannons especially, in the early game, and this can really improve your income in a way that maybe you didn't think that you would be able to. Now, next, a pretty basic one, but something I thought I'd mention anyway, reducing inflation. So, as we can see here, as Arabia, we currently have 8% inflation. This is because I've taken out loans to purchase an institution, something that I found to be increasingly useful. So reducing inflation can be a fairly simple way to improve your economy. Especially, the bigger you are, the more you're going to get out of reducing inflation for your admin power cost. For example, let's just do it right now as Arabia. So we're currently making 25.53, reduce inflation by 2% for 75 admin points. Now we're making half a ducat more per month, which doesn't seem like a lot. However, compound that over time. So, quick math, it's like 6 ducats a year, 60 ducats in 10 years, 600 ducats in 100 years, if you want to think of it that far in advance. Now, the best way to reduce inflation is to get a Master of Mint advisor, which we currently don't have, and don't have one to, actually, we have one right here. So this kind of advisor right here, the Master of Mint, will lower your inflation every year, which is, very strong. And Economic Ideas as well will also reduce yearly inflation. Very, very powerful to have this, because not only does inflation reduce your actual income, it also increases the cost of fort cost, build costs, and maintenance. This is very, very scary when you stop and think about it. So reducing inflation can be very important. Now, as well, paying back loans is very important, because in addition to taking an active chunk out of your monthly income in the way of interest, paying back, if you don't pay back a loan in time, that also increases your inflation, which, as we've just seen, can really affect your economy in a significant way. Alright, so now we're on to number 11. I know I haven't been listing all of these, but I've been, trying to keep these ideas pretty separate. Another quick way. It doesn't really improve your income, but it is a way to get a quick sum of ducats. Consider debasing your currency. If you bought Rights of Man, you have a new option in the Economy tab to debase your currency. This gives you one loan's worth of money, but you don't ever have to pay interest on this. You only have to deal with the corruption. So, for example, if you've taken espionage ideas and get a really good reduction to corruption, this can be a very quick way to get a sum of money, whether you want to pay for troops, build up a war chest, build a new building, or even just pay back loans by using the money you get from this. Debasing your currency can be a very quick way. Now, bear in mind, you should only ever do this if you're at 0 or 1 corruption, because anything more than like 3 or 4% corruption is really, really bad. And I think it's either somewhere between 5 and 8%, I think, corruption increases the chance of getting bad corruption events. So that's just something else to bear in mind if you get a little too overzealous with getting, debasing your currency. And that brings us to number 12, the last thing on this list. If you're still here, thank you. I hope you found this list useful so far. The last, and probably one of the most important, if not the most important way to improve your income, is through idea groups. Now, idea groups are very powerful, basically no matter which ones you take, with maybe the exception of, maritime and naval ideas, of course, depending on your situation. However, generally speaking, ideas are going to be a very good way of improving your income, and here is why. First of all, we have economic ideas. This is the most straightforward. If you need more money in your country, if you're a country that doesn't have access to a good trade node, economic ideas is your way to go. Especially outside of Europe, because the reduced development cost at the end of economic ideas is going to make it easier to embrace institutions as well. And it's important to note that economic ideas has national tax modifier plus 10% and production efficiency plus 10%. It also reduces land maintenance modifier, and it also increases your decrease to monthly autonomy change. And as well, it also reduces yearly inflation and reduces the cost to build new buildings. It also reduces the amount of interest you have to pay on loans. So economic ideas is literally the best way to improve your economy in terms of ways that are not war or trade, as it were. Now, two other very good ways of improving your economy are, first of all, quantity ideas. Quantity ideas, regiment cost minus 10% means that this reduces the overall purchasing cost of a unit by 10%, which is very powerful, as you might understand. And it also reduces the maintenance. So in addition to reducing the upfront cost and the maintenance from the regiment costs idea, you also get land maintenance minus 10%. So if you stack this with economic ideas, that's 20% less that you're paying for your troops. So, for example, if let's just say as a flat number that I'm paying 20 ducats per month for my army, that's 4 ducats a month more that I'm making just from those 2 ideas, just from reducing land maintenance. That's how good this is in terms of your economy. Now, important to note is that defensive ideas, in addition to having a great first 2 ideas, also reduces land maintenance by the 4th idea. So we get an additional, if we get that down to 30%, that's even cheaper troops. So that's just things to consider as far as that go. Now, another 2 groups that indirectly improve your, well, I guess 3 innovative ideas. If you like to use advisors, the advisor cost reduction, especially for like level 3 advisors, this minus 25% at the end of innovative ideas is very, very powerful for improving your economy in that sense, just because advisors are going to cost so much less. And as well, with this idea, level 1 advisors can actually cost so little that they will actually improve your national income to the point where the advisor is actually netting you a profit for earning monarch points. So that's something to consider. And the last 2 are religious and humanist ideas. And the way that these affect your economy are indirect, but very powerful. We've talked about how non-accepted cultures and non-accepted religions both impact your economy in a negative way. So, religious ideas is a very blunt idea group. It improves tolerance of the true faith, which lowers unrest. And lowering unrest means that you might be able to lower autonomy in a province manually without having rebels, which is really strong. It also lets you convert other provinces more effectively to your religion, which means that they're not going to have as much rest, which means you might be able to lower autonomy. It also means that they're going to have an accepted religion, which means they aren't taking the horrible penalties for having that. Humanist Ideas does basically the same thing in a different way. So, Humanist Ideas, first of all, lowers national unrest by -2, regardless of what the culture or anything is. And this may, bring the province to a point where you might be able to lower autonomy, which is a good way of improving your economy, as we've discussed. It also raises your tolerance of heathens and heretics. And this is important because accepted religions you know, on this tolerance scale in the religion tab, you know, having positive tolerance of a religion means that they're not going to take a penalty for having a wrong religion in terms of your economy. So that's very powerful indirectly for your economy if you have promises with the wrong religion. And, well, that's basically it. That is 12 different ways that you can improve your economy in EU4 without going to war, you know, using war spoils, or, you know, war reparations, the spoils of war, or just taking money straight out from a country, or getting new provinces. As well, it also does not include trade, which is a list for an entirely different time. But anyway, I hope you found this list to be useful. I hope that this will help to improve your economy and improve your gameplay experience. If you like these kind of guides, let me know. And if I left anything out, please leave a comment, or if you just thought the video was helpful. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more EU4 content and other strategy game content in the future. And I'll see you on the next one. Until then, Godspeed.